Hey, welcome to the Midwest. We love many things, and most of them are food. And by this list, you'll be able to tell everything that made it big here in the state of Missouri. So why don't we check it out? Let's go. Hey, my name is Faith Dornak. I'm the video coordinator for Wiser Living, and here we're gonna go over foods that started in Missouri. They either became a big deal here, or they were actually created here. I have a lot of pride for this video being a Midwesterner myself, and you'll see why here in a minute. These are some pretty big things you're about to see. But before we get started, be sure to like, subscribe, and if you're interested in the area, be sure to check out the link below to get started. We want to be able to connect with you. So let's begin with one of my favorites of all time. You actually can't say it's the best thing since sliced bread because it's actually sliced bread itself. As you probably know, bread is one of those things that have been around for about as long as humans have been around, but they never sold such a thing pre-sliced. The very first automatically sliced bread loaves were produced in 1928 by a man named Otto Rodwetter in Chillicothe, Missouri. In fact, when it first came out, many bakers were reluctant on the integrity of selling such a bread because of its fashion, saying that it would stale quickly whenever you would have it or just quickly fall apart. But many housewives at the time were so fascinated by the even and precise cuts of bread, so it was quite a hit. They did a ton of research to find out the right thickness for every single slice and found it to be slightly less than a ½ inch. That's very important, jot that down, jot that down. So with these next couple that we're gonna talk about, we're actually gonna be talking about the foods that came out of the St. Louis World's Fair of 1904. And yes, some of these items have actually faced controversy on whether or not it was so-called invented there, but it was here at the fair that they actually made their debut. So whether or not they were the first one made here or just made popular, I can't really say, I'm not really a historian. However, we're still gonna be talking about them because this was their first introduction to the world. The very first item, and by far the most popular that we talk about, is the ice cream cone. Ice cream was very well known at this point and popular, but it was commonly served in cups or dishes. A vendor named Ernest A. Hamley was selling waffle-like desserts next to the vendor, so he decided to roll up these into a cone to hold the ice cream, resulting in the ice cream cone. As a side note on this would have specifically been the waffle cone, not necessarily the flat bottom ice cream cone, because it had actually been invented a couple years before in Italy. But between an amazing waffle cone compared to the flat bottom cone, you usually see at McDonald's, I know which one I'm choosing. Now another big item on here is cotton candy. They referred to it back then as fairy floss. And honestly, I think the name fairy floss is kind of a lot better name for cotton candy just because it just feels so whimsical. With this one, candy maker John C. Wharton and a dentist named William Morrison, may I just mention that he is a dentist, came together to make a machine that spun sugar into this fairy floss. I'm pretty sure he produces the cotton candy and then he catches the cavities, if you know what I mean. This was actually a hit at the fair, and if you think about it, seeing these edible, colorful clouds as a kid would have been amazing. Later on, this treat was patented by another dentist. What is up with these dentists? It was then renamed as cotton candy. Another big one that Missourians like to talk about is iced tea, specifically iced. This drink was of course a traditionally hot drink worldwide, but here at the fair on a particularly hot day, Richard Blinchton noticed sales were low, so he decided to serve it cold. Later on, they found evidence of iced tea in a few old cookbooks that predated the 1904 fair, but again, its fame really took off on these hot days at the fair. If you think about it, it makes sense. I mean, if I had hot tea and I was at a fair, I'd put ice in it to cool it down, but that's just me. Now, there are still a couple other foods that made it popular at this 1904 fair. This includes hamburgers, hot dogs, peanut butter, and even Dr. Pepper. Can you imagine a fair without some of those items? Now, as we mentioned peanut butter and burgers, have you ever thought, probably not, but have you ever thought about putting the two together? Yes, we made the first peanut butter burger. Have you heard of it? This has definitely not been a very popular item for some. Come to find out, I've had a peanut butter burger. It's all about just the right ratio of peanut butter. Anyways, this restaurant is called the Wheel Inn in Sedalia, who began to put peanut butter on what they called a Guberburger. Incredible name. Make sure, if you haven't tried it, to give this one a good college try. It is good. A few other amazing foods came out of St. Louis too. The first one being toasted ravioli. We do have a couple different sources on people in St. Louis that claim that they had made it. One was at Ogani's, where Mickey Gargolia accidentally dropped ravioli into the fryer. They tried to salvage it with Parmesan and ended up loving it. However, someone else claimed that the invention was first made at Angelo's, where a German cook who didn't understand English very well ended up putting raviolis into the fryer. Sounds like everybody here wants a little bit of that toasted ravioli fame. Either way, I'm just happy that they have been invented. I used to eat them all throughout my college life. Another one I feel really pressed to share is Ooey Gooey Buttercake. If you have not had this, you are missing out. With this one as well, the origins of this food was also prone to some of the he said, she said kind of information, but they do believe its origins may have been from an accident as well when they reversed a couple of the proportions on butter and flour, so they thought 2 cups of this, 1 cup of this, and then switched it. Its beginnings could either be from Danzer's, Cope Bakery, or St. Louis Pastries. They all came out with this at about the same time, so either way, it's an amazing treat. If you've never experienced it, put some powdered sugar on that, you have a masterpiece. Heads up, what comes after that? It's gonna be 7-Up. This soda was created by a man named Charles Leipert Grigg, who owned the company called the Howden Corporation back in 1929. So it was right before the stock market crashed. He released the soft drink that we now know today as 7-Up. Well, with a few major changes, and that's what makes this story actually so interesting. Guess what this soda was originally called? Bib-Label Lithiated. It's gonna take me a couple times. Bib-Label Lithiated Lemon Lime Soda. What a mouthful. Eventually, it was changed to 7-Up Lithiated Lemon Soda and then later changed to just 7-Up. They aren't 100% certain why it was called this, but some think it was either the atomic mass of lithium or that it had 7 original ingredients in the original formula. One of these ingredients was a drug called lithium citrate, which was marked as a mood booster at the time to help treat depression, believe it or not. Back in the day, lithium was very popular, and they even had lithium springs that people would frequent for those effects. They even claimed it would cure a hangover. Eventually, lithium citrate was banned by the government in 1948. That doesn't really sound very good, but it does make this one very interesting. When we talk about Kansas City, everyone knows that if you go there, you have to try some of their Kansas City barbecue. It is delish. One of the things that they have perfected, and one of my favorite things to enjoy while there, is called burnt ends. Yes, burnt ends. This is a flavorful piece of meat cut from the point half of a smoked brisket, and when served should show a modest amount of char on its side. It all started with Henry Perry and later Arthur Bryant back as far as the 1910s and existed near the legendary 18th and Vine Street, the hub of African American life there at the time. They also served smoked ribs, beef brisket, and pulled pork sandwiches in their restaurant. And later on, this was popularized by an article from journalist Calvin Trillin from the Kansas City area. To this day, this place and their barbecue has a very distinct and amazing taste. I have gone and it is good. I want to also take a moment to talk about our hometown of Springfield. That's because we have 2 of our favorite foods invented here. The first one being Cashew Chicken. This is a Chinese food dish made by David Leong. It's something that anyone out of the Midwest would like. Breaded chicken, smothered in gravy with a side of rice. It's also topped with green onions and cashews. You can still visit the family restaurant called Leong's Asian Dinner to try the original recipe. Also another favorite of ours is Pineapple Whip. This is a pineapple-based sweet treat that exists in Springfield. It has the same consistency of ice cream, but does stand on its own. We have these trucks all over the city with the Lulu, the Hulu dancing girl on each of the trucks. It's really cool and quite the vibe around town. If you come here, make sure to take a stop. You can't miss them. Guys, can you imagine life without some of these foods? I'm so thankful for these lists of firsts, and you can thank Missouri for their great contribution not only to cooking history, but to American history itself. Again, thank you guys for watching today. We have another channel we want you to check out to see Jesse Weiser and all of the things we have going on there. Be sure to do that. That's all we have for today. I hope to see you in the next one right over here. See ya. Best thing since sliced bread. Actually, you couldn't say it's the best thing since, you can't say it's the best thing since sliced bread because it is.